He won last year.
Oh, okay.
And both Alvaro's pretty. I think he's only gotten better.
Yeah, he's good. He's riding.
Both those guys are getting better because they're just racing a bunch.
Yeah.
Are we hot right now?
We're hot.
All right. Yeah, Alvaro's killing it, man. He's gotten watching both him and his brother grow over the last couple of years has been really cool.
Yeah.
They've gone a long ways. There wasn't that long ago my old ass could almost hang.
Yeah. Yeah. Luis Huerta, he was talking about. They did that GP, the one you didn't race at Santa Veronica. He was saying he came in and just how fast both those kids were. Yeah. He was hanging on to Alvaro for a little bit. And he was like, dude, this is just too crazy at this point. And then he hold off Chato for a little bit, but then again he just went for it, and he was like, dude, this is like a different pace. Like they have that really good support from his both his parents. They're both work really hard. They put in the work. We see their videos on the group chat all the time. How they're always uploading,
grinding.
They're just working, and then they're going riding in the afternoons or in the mornings whenever they have a chance after work.
Plus, they've been racing Score the past 2 or 3 full years, right?
Yeah, I think 2 years.
Yeah,
the last 2 full years.
So they're riding year round a lot.
Yeah,
high intensity.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool to see.
Yeah,
it's nice to see the progression and see a few years ago what they were doing versus what they're doing now. That's probably the biggest jump I've seen of anybody make in a long time.
It's crazy because when I started racing quads in 2007, his dad and his uncles, they raced, and they had already been racing for 5 years. So my first race was, I think, one of their last races, the Ensenada de San Felipe, that record race. So they grew up racing. I went to school with one of their uncles. So they've always been around racing. They've been racing since very young, but it was this last year where they were kind of hanging out with the mortals like us, just showing up and doing their thing. But as soon as they came of age and they started putting in the real work and the lap times, and they've got Bobby behind them on bikes. I think that's what's really helped. And it's just cool to see the family progress together.
Yeah, the program is definitely there. It's cool to see.
All of them, all their homies too, Danny, Dirt Bike Danny.
Yeah.
He was on my minute last year for Tecate. I don't know where we finished 2 years ago, but we were on the same minute last year, and I knew we were pretty similar. I was sick. This is gonna be a good race. Homies say what's up to each other. And then lap 1, hole shots me, and I was all right behind him. And I was fuck, I just can't. He's just another pace. I couldn't keep up with him. Loop 2, I hole shotted. I was all right, I'm gonna keep him off, and he was just right on my tail until I couldn't keep him off anymore. I had to pull over, and I beat him on loop 3 because it was more technical, but he smoked me by I think a few good 5, 6, 7 minutes. And he was racing with all those guys last year, so it just shows.
Yeah, his endurance is there.
Yep,
I caught him a few times while I was riding on the e-bike. They were running up one of the hills at Rock House.
Oh, nice.
Together with Arturo and him and some guys that race cars too. The Duran family, that they're going to be racing too. They're just always doing something. You see them on Instagram. Mm-hmm. They're always riding, or they're going out there and ADVs, the cars, the Can-Ams. There's always doing something. Mm-hmm. And Danny's he's quick. When he was younger, I'm a little bit closer to his dad's age, and he would bring him out. We were all kind of a little worried because he was always let's go for it.
Yeah.
We'd see a turn, he'd come in full blast, coming in sideways to it. it you could see, and you need a lot of endurance for that.
Yeah.
They haven't.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I was all right, Danny's fast, he's been racing Score, but I'm gonna have him on this technical single track endurance, and I didn't.
Yeah.
He had me good.
Yeah. The first loop and second loop last year, it was a little easier too. I mean, compared to the third loop.
I thought first loop was pretty harder than most first year Tecate loops though.
Yeah, I think that was an old there was a few sections of old hammer down course that they used for that to get out of Santa Veronica, to my recollection. And there's definitely some more technical spots there that I was like, man, this is within the first half mile of the race.
It's good rocky section.
Now there's an obstacle that I remember they got that. It's a funny shaped rock with a wall ride, but at the end of it there's another rock. So you swing arm just slides into it and locks the bike down. That whole stuff's all from an old hammer down course. Jimmy Beecham, the man, putting it together.
Yeah.
But Yeah, that's a cool stuff. It's good to see them using that stuff and keeping it alive. It might be one of the only trails in and out of Santa Veronica these days.
Yeah, yeah, we're losing a lot of it. Keeps on getting shorter and shorter. Somebody has to put in the time.
Right.
To
Somebody's
do
got to
it.
go out there and trim those bushes.
Yeah.
Right on. So what about this year, Jordan?
I think it's going to be a good year. I think we're going to add Nahi. Nahi's we haven't done that since 22, if I recall. I mean, like where the whole race was basically out of Nahi, and that's the story that I'm hearing is that we're going to go out of Nahi. We might sneak in some footage from the last time in 22 when we rode Nahi there before.
And so that's east of Compadre Trail, a little bit higher elevation than Santa Veronica, right? Like up the road, 15 minutes or so.
Yeah, a lot of sand.
Yeah,
exactly.
A lot of whoops. Southeast, there'll be some whoop style sections.
Yeah.
But it's going to start at Veronica still, correct?
Start at Veronica, go to Nahi, do a loop out of Nahi, back to Santa Veronica is the story.
And then we'll loop. So loop 3 starts at Nahi and then ends at Santa Veronica.
Yeah, and I think for those guys that rode last year, it's important. I understand we're going to use the same piece of trail coming in and out of Santa Veronica, a short section there.
That we used last year?
Yeah, just don't be surprised if you ride the same trail both directions, is what I'm saying. We did that last year for, it's a trail called Midnight Cattle. They ran it twice last year, and I didn't know. And so, like, I was riding down the trail, and I thought for sure I had gotten on the wrong path and did the same. I thought I missed it. I rode for miles stressing because I was like, I slowed way down, and I'm like riding along going, well, I don't want to turn around because I don't want to get in a wreck, but at the same time, I'm pretty sure we ain't going the right way.
Like I've already ridden this today. I rode this morning.
And it was, I think, I can't remember for sure, but I think it might even been the same direction, which was a trip too.
Yeah.
But,
I think it was something like that because I remember running into somebody head on.
Yeah.
They asked me, I was like, look, everything is going that way. Let's just go that way and let's just hope for the best.
Oh, because someone in front of you flipped around, thought they blew a turn.
And then we just kept on going, and it was like 4 or 5 of us, and we just kept on going. And that's when we ended up going to the third technical side, towards like the north side of Santa Veronica, and then heading back.
So good to note. May run the same trail twice. So I think it's going to be 2 different directions, possibly going in and out of Santa Veronica, probably loop 1 and 3, if I recall from some of the notes I've seen online.
So how do you think they're going to take us out on the first loop towards Nahi? Like, are they going to mess around in that lower Santa Veronica stuff that we've been the past 2 years, or are they just going to pretty much kind of beeline us across Compadre north?
I mean, we
southeast.
This is a topic that comes up oftentimes, and I think that we're losing a lot of trails to fences. So these guys are having to use what they can to make it in and out of the RSV. I'm not sure how many more years you'll be able to start there without having real problems. So what trail they use, I'm not sure. My guess is they'd have to go west to Santa Veronica, out similar to what they have in the past, and then maybe toward the tractor tower, and then somewhere between Santa Veronica and the tractor tower, they'll head southbound from there, is what I would guess they'd have.
Yeah, maybe towards what's that big Mount Peña Blanca? Maybe towards that backside.
What about that old big rehab building, like that old big abandoned building back there?
It has a lot of fences now.
Yeah.
Oh,
there's a lot of we just did something very similar in there, and it's short. I don't know if we would just, because that would be more of like that beeline going straight
it'd be pretty quick.
I don't know if they want to do that with all that many racers and all the trucks going towards Santa Veronica, all the
on
chase
the road
trucks.
at the same time.
I think more like what Jordan's saying, and then maybe head out towards that toward Testerazo or something like that, and then heading up. I'm not sure.
If you come out of there and it's you're in a bunch of houses and there's a super whooped out single track, you might go by that old rehab facility.
Yeah.
I just always trip out how whooped out that one section trail is pretty smashed.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if they use that again, but there again, it's the only way in and out. It's what you got to do. This is why we fund races and rides and stuff, is to keep trails open, because the reality is they close all the time. So you gotta do what you can, and they go and negotiate to keep the trail open, and they talk to the rancher and pay the guy what he's got to pay him, and whatever it takes to make it happen, it gets done so that we can all have a dirt bike race, and that's what we're here for.
And it's like we were talking about earlier. I think it's important to understand which ones we're welcome to race on, but maybe not go back and ride on, because
Yeah.
then maybe in a year or two we won't be able to race,
Yeah.
and then who knows where we're gonna have to start. Nikki sounds like it's gonna be open for us for a while, but Nikki at the same time it's only so big, so we might go back to the old style loop races that they were doing a few years back. I remember like in 2012, seeing can't remember who won that year, but they were doing.
It might have been.
I think Ivan won.
Maybe I was saying to say Gary was there too. I think maybe 2012ish. I don't know.
Yeah, they
getting so old they kind of blur together.
Yeah, right. No, but they were doing that loop race. They had the afternoon race and then the morning race and the afternoon race, and they had something similar like that. So maybe we end up with a loop race, but I prefer the those long stretches that we go out 30 miles somewhere and then we go 30 miles another way and then 30 miles back.
Yeah.
And I remember one of the first ones I raced in 2018 on the third loop, or 19. Third loop, we went north of Santa Veronica into, and it was like the clouds were touching the mountains, and it was like going into Narnia.
There's some steep mountains back there.
Yeah,
Like
cool.
it was steep over there.
It was so cool because it was like going into the wild.
Yep.
We went up to have you guys heard of Venata? You identifying that one? The coming out of Skid Plate.
Oh yeah, that big mountain.
Right. When you went in there, it was all cloudy, and then you kept on going, and you could feel like the mist hitting your. It was crazy. It was super fun that year.
That's cool.
So there's always those trails, but again, we bunch of fences now. It's just it's definitely gonna be getting a little bit harder as time goes by.
Right on.
Yeah, that the racing that we have down there is one of a kind in the world, I think, and it's especially in our region. I think it's important to note how I don't know of another place left in California or Arizona that you're going to get a single track enduro race where it's 100 miles of not beat to death trail.
Yeah.
Every year. Like realistically every year we show up and it's 90% new trails, and I think that's why they get such a great turnout, and that's why this is such a prestigious event. I think it's the biggest race in our area for enduro guys by a landslide.
Absolutely.
I can't even just. I think I did a national enduro years ago in Clear Creek that maybe had that kind of turnout, but there again they had a bunch of. You had to ride a bunch of the same stuff in and out, and it was pretty beat in. Like the trails were more abused, I guess the best way to put it.
Yeah.
And nothing to say like Clear Creek was an awesome place, and I miss it, but I think Tecate's the best there is. So
just with like the different types of terrain too. I mean,
Yeah.
I've talked to guys that sign up and they're thinking it's going to be like a desert race.
Yeah.
Like, no, bro, it's not a desert race. And then you get like first loop, fast, some like not like some like fresh 2-track where you can like slide corners, and then go into like fast single track, and then loop 2 you'll have like washes, like sandy rocky washes and hill climbs, and then loop 3's like full on granite medium enduro with like tricky little splatter lines and like rock gaps, and you got to be on your toes.
It definitely sets up like the type of riding, like you said, like you go from those sandy whoops that you feel like you're in San Felipe for a little bit.
Exactly. First loop, second loop, will be like fast whoops. You'll be in 4th, 5th gear.
Those tight little corners that it remembers, like seeing those GNCC races that they're going inside of like the trees, but we've got these big manzanitas and all these shrubs that you hit those at 7 or 8 in the morning. Freezing cold, your hand's not ready.
Remember last year?
It's crazy. But yeah, it's so much type of terrain. Like it sets up whenever you go somewhere else. I don't get to ride that much in other states, but whenever I have, we kind of see like, okay, we get a little bit of everything, and it's nice for everybody that lives in Southern California to be able to do that.
Yeah, I think that's why they get the turnout they do. We can beat that to death, but the reality is they're getting. I mean, I think they get 160 guys in a 30+ class some years. Yeah. Like, that's pretty wild if you think about it. You'd be lucky to get 30 dudes. I did a couple of national hair scrambles this year, and there was, I don't know, maybe 25 guys in the vet class. There's 160 at Tecate. So, like, if not the biggest enduro race on the West Coast, it's for sure the biggest vet enduro race on the West Coast. And with it being by the Los Ancianos, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
Now we just got to get those dudes to give us a vet pro class, so I don't have to, ride in the back with all the geezers.
I think part of the reason why there's so many overall finishers and competitors is because it's such an honor to finish that race.
Yeah.
You know, like most other races, it's not too big of a deal to finish. And if you are finishing, you're just getting either you finish and you finish in time, or you're getting swept off by a chase, like one of the guys.
Yeah.
So they set it up to where it's such a long day, like almost 100 miles every year. If you finish that, it's a total. It feels great.
Yeah, I mean, you see the pros. We were looking at their times, 4 hours last year. I don't know how long it takes you, but it takes me like 6.
Yeah,
it's insane. And
5.5.
Yeah, 2 hours each time, hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever the time is. But you have to be ready for it. Like
you're out there by yourself.
Yeah, like we're usually out there having beers or like talking about it. But then when it comes down to the race and you're starting your third loop, you're maybe 5 miles in, you're like, shit, I should have never drank those beers last weekend talking about the race that I'm suffering right now. But it's the honor. It's it makes you kind of look forward to it for the rest of the year as a vet, as maybe we're not pros like Arturo Salas and all of these younger kids, but we look forward to this race to one, get your bikes ready, because you have to get them ready for the 100 miles that we're going to beat our bikes up. Then we have to make sure that whatever we're going to do, have everything ready once we get there, because we usually can't drive back. Most of us live an hour and a half away. We have to cross that border that we have to get ready for. You don't want anything to go bad at 8 p.m. on Friday night and they don't let you go by because you forgot your registration and all those things that you want to make sure that everything's prepped for you to get there. And once it's finally done, you can kick back with your friends and talk how you passed someone, you kicked them down when they were having a hard time going up a hill. But I think that's what's really nice about this race. Like, you come down, you have these stories that you're going to be talking about until next year, and that gets you prepped. This year, I don't know about you guys, but this year, I started prepping for this specific race. I used ZR. I was looking at a bunch. You're one of the biggest supporters of Renee down there.
Love Renee, man. Love what they do.
Yeah, it's badass. And his race, we kept pushing it. I know you and I talked about it a lot.
Yeah.
About going down there and helping him, because we don't have anything else to prep for something like that. He does shorter version races and sometimes similar terrains. This year we linked up with him and helped him out to get some other ranches to open up so we can go and use some different terrains. And it's fun. It helps you get ready for it. But I think it comes down to, if you want to see the sport alive and how it's been going on, we got all los ancianos getting more ancianos. They're getting older. We need to get more younger guys involved and seeing what's going on.
100%.
Yeah, we definitely got to keep the machine moving. Like the ZR races when they happen. I think he did 5 or 6 races this year. They're awesome. I'm not a fitness guy. I work a real job, and so I go to work early in the morning and I get home late at night most days. And so getting into the gym's challenging for me. So Tecate Enduro is the one that I look forward to every year, and I look forward to it in a way where I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna leave some legs out there. I might pull over and shed a tear. I think a couple years ago, Ryan went by me while I was laying across the top of my bike with some back pain.
I was like, come on. You're like, let's go.
So it's like the Tecate Enduro is the pinnacle. That's the Super Bowl for us. That's what we got, and you get these little races, ZR, and it used to be the La Puerta series. Those guys killed it.
I think they're going to be coming back next year.
Yeah, I talked to the old man, and he was saying he's going to do a race this year.
Yeah, I think Gio was going to jump in and just do a one-off race. Yeah. So maybe that's another cool one to do.
And then we got the tractor race too.
Oh yeah,
February.
I think it's 8th or something like that. I think first or second week.
Yeah, we're gonna have to look that up and give an actual date. But the tractor race is legit.
I have it right here. I put it on my calendar.
I can't grab my phone. It's right there.
Yeah, I have it.
It's February 1st.
February 1st. Do not miss the tractor race. That's
in Tecate, right?
No, that's in Tijuana. That's at the off of Boulevard 2000.
Yeah, the Mejia Ranch.
They call that area Casian.
Casian, yeah.
And it's where the rodeo grounds is. They didn't race there last couple of years. It's awesome, really cool time.
Yeah, super good event. I mean, organization wise, I think they're one of the best to do it too.
Yeah.
Tianos is gonna take it world class, but Tractor, they've done that Tecate race where they started in downtown Tecate.
That was awesome.
That was a badass race.
That's sick.
I don't know if they can do it now. They just did one at 250 out of Tecate, but yeah, another great organization, and they do an awesome job to prep for that race, and everything's super dialed in. So it's cool if we can support that too.
Yeah, the tractor race, I think it was 2010. I was just talking to Justin Morgan about that the other day, because that was the same day as the Catalina GP happened.
Oh.
And I was fortunate enough to score a line in the Catalina GP, so I went to Catalina, and Justin went to Tecate, and both of us, like, those are one-off events that may or may not ever happen again.
Yeah.
And like, man, what a time! Like it's pretty cool to see, and like to see, Justin still be hyped on that tractor race. Now it's 14 years later or whatever it was. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was cool. I wasn't even in. It was in my hometown. I wasn't even there. I was somewhere in school at that time, so I was super bummed of not being able to be part of it. But that Catalina GP, I've always looked at it again to see when it happens, and it's like you said, it's just one-offs.
I think they scored that one year, and at the time I was a little younger and my legs worked a little better, and we were getting down okay. So I think I ended up 5th in the B class or something back then. But that was a cool race. It was all like they used the cart paths at the golf course, which was wild.
Way.
And so like the golf carts had ridden over this dirt thousands of times, and it was almost like supermoto. But it was only like 8 foot wide, so you had to slide perfectly so you didn't run off of the track one way or another. It's a pretty neat course. It was fun to do.
That's sweet.
That's cool. But yeah, there again, just to shout out to the tractor racing guys one more time. It's pretty cool to see a guy like Justin Morgan who's been there and raced that, and he's been ISDE.
Raced a ton of stuff.
Ton of stuff, and like all time dude. And he was telling me this story about this photo he has racing through downtown Tecate, and this gal's on the side of the race course, and her hair is blown in the wind as he goes by on a YZ 125, and you can see in like the way he's talking about the race, and that one moment how excited it was. That was 14 years ago. I mean, like that's why these guys do these races and put all the effort in, because it's a monumental effort. The Los Ancianos probably have 30 or 40 guys out there that are busting their ass cutting bushes. Tractor guys have 20 or 30 dudes that are out there doing their thing to make these happen. And that's why it's important for us to show up and give them their entry fees and high five them at the end of the day, because otherwise we wouldn't have these deals.
Another guy who loves those races, who's raced all over the world, Dustin McCarthy.
Yeah, I was about to mention that. Yeah,
loves all those ZR and tractor races. I mean, talk about a guy who's raced Romaniacs multiple times, hard enduro all over the States, Baja stuff, Southern Baja off-road stuff. I mean, he's raced everywhere, and I know he thinks that the ZR stuff is world class.
He does. He shows up to the ZR races, and when him and Justin Morgan and Brandon Prieto and Arturo, and when those guys show up, I get a little bummed because I'm trying to get that $200 purse money.
Yeah,
I'm like shit. There they are again. I mean,
trying to get your Unekis play.
Yeah. I got one this year. Thanks for not showing up to all the rounds, guys. I appreciate that. I got
Thanks for not being consistent.
Where's that at?
We're getting some custom ones made. They're gonna have to see that on the YZ250 over there next year. Number ones.
You're gonna get some jerseys printed?
Oh, dude, you name it. This is the only time it's ever gonna happen. So we're gonna run it as deep as I can run it, and everybody can laugh at me the whole way there because I don't care.
We'll have to get some posters made.
I'll get some posters.
I think that's really important for the kids, for the younger generations.
I do some autographs. I don't know who would want one, but I'll take it.
That's funny.
But yeah, the Tecate's the biggest. Like, I really can't stress enough how big of a deal this is to the off-road community and anybody that knows better. Quick side story: I was in a wheelchair at the 212 Lounge. Shout out to Austin. Years ago, I was sitting there. I had a broken femur, and I was in bad shape. They weren't sure my leg was going to heal back correctly, so I was in a chair for a while. And I was sitting there, and I'd never met Larry Rossler before. And he walks up behind me, and he was just standing there, and we started talking about, and we're watching, I think it was a District 38 race at the time. And, Larry and I started talking. He asked what was going on with the leg. And he's like telling me, he's like, oh, dude, you'll be fine. I had both of mine replaced. Like he made it sound like it was no big deal. And in the moment, that made me feel that much better. And in that same conversation, we were talking about Catalina GP because I was hoping to heal up enough time to go. And I was asking him if he was going to go. And he's like, no way. I wouldn't go to that when it's the same weekend as Tecate Enduro. And when Larry says something like that, at the time I'd never raced Tecate. And I'm sitting there going, it's that good, huh? And he goes, it's the best race in the world.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, if Larry Rossler says it's the best race in the world, I know what's on the schedule for the next time my legs work.
Yeah, for sure. I remember when I was growing up, I was around 7, 8 years old. Doc Hernandez, I don't know if you know him. He's a dentist in Tecate. Everybody knows him. He's ridden with Bob Maynor and all those guys. He's really good friends with Borrego Negro.
Yeah. He's
a
Los Angeles.
He's Los Ancianos too. And I remember we were really big into mountain biking at that age. But you would get like Jimmy and Bob showing up to his house, going out trail riding. Mm-hmm. And me and my buddy were just out looking out the window. I was like, dude, that's so cool. We should get some bikes, not knowing what we had in our backyard. And I thought that was the coolest thing. And finally, we started going out to the Langosta run that he was doing back in like early 2000s, like 99, 2000. And I remember showing up, and I'd been to Supercross at that point, but going there and seeing the Thor, all the Thor guys there, and some factory Kawasaki guys there, looking at it, I was like, shit. And we were going to the Rosarito Hotel and seeing that whole thing and knowing like they're going past my grandma's property and doing all these things. Like I thought that was insane. And now that, fast forward, that first quit the quad stuff and got into dirt bikes and started going out with a few guys from Tecate, and we would go on and look at the hard enduro stuff. And I was like, dude, this is so cool. Maybe one day we can make it out there. They're like, dude, we've got this in the backyard. You guys have no idea. And it's so cool to be able to ride it, share it with everybody, and us go out there and explore. And like what you were saying earlier, those when you go out and cut lines off of old GPS tracks, like that's what it's all about. It's
rediscovering trails.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people lose it, but you've done it. I've been doing it. Mm-hmm. It's cool to do that too, and be able to discover it, share it, have a good time, and then go back to doing your normal life from Monday to
And I think this all goes back to the fact of why there's so many elite, like world-class events out of Tecate, is because there's such a strong and large community of dirt bikers and off-roaders. Yeah. I mean, you have the local Mexican Tecate crew, which are the ones making the race happen, and then you have such a large U.S. impact that's there to support it. And with those two groups, it's just massive, and that's what fuels the Ancianos guys. That's what fuels the R guys, tractor guys, is to like they know people will show up. They know so many people enjoy it.
The reason that they and I think it was that first race that they did it was because Ancianos skipped the year, and everybody wanted to race. And if I'm not mistaken, probably Ray or one of the guys from Los Ancianos, they're going to tell me that I messed it up. But I think that's the reason that they did it, was to fill in that gap. Because I don't know if it was 1 year or 2 years that everybody wanted to race, and they had a really good turnout. Plus, I mean, we've talked about this. La Parada's tried to do a race here and there, and it's turned out all right. If we talk about how many beers we drank, I think it was we won the championship.
I thought they were just rides. Were they actually races?
We had a race. And Dustin actually won it. Yeah, I think he won. Like,
that was a killer race.
Yeah, it was like a hard enduro / medium enduro type deal at Danny's Ranch.
Okay.
Danny's Reynoso.
Oh, ranch. That's right. Where there was like an enduro cross in like the
corral
in like the horse stadium.
In the
or something.
Yeah. So they did that. We did it, but when they did it, they put on a world class event too. The way that they timed the things, the organization that they have, their club is really big too. And they just do a really, really good job on it. So I think it's cool, which brings it all together. Awesome. All clubs have really fast guys. All clubs have the medium fast guys, and then some that are just filling in the gaps have a really good time. You know.
Mm-hmm.
I've long said I don't think speed is relevant in the dirt bike world because, like,
100%.
I've seen my best friend Natalie ride a dirt bike, and the experience that she has is better than what I have in most cases. You know, she's out there riding, and and I'm looking at the excitement she has, and I'm going, man, like, to me, sometimes it feels like I'm going to the gym. Like, I'm just out there riding around, and I'm like, I don't feel excited at all, but she's just amped to the moon, you know. And I'm always looking at going, man, I'd almost trade it to go back to that. So, like, I really try to be careful not to judge it on speed, because the reality is we're all here to have a good time.
Yeah,
you know, and
no,
like,
100%.
and so, like, if you're just trying to have a good time and just trying to get there, it doesn't matter how fast you're going. It doesn't matter what your experience is that day. Some dude that finishes dead last this year, I saw they're going to give a $500 reward for the last place finisher at Tecate Enduro this year. That's awesome for whoever that guy is going to come in. That poor bastard will probably be out there.
I don't think he's gonna even know he won.
No,
until it ends.
It's impossible to gauge because you're going to get cut off in time, so you can't even sandbag that. You know, so it's like, but that guy is going to come in there and he's going to regret his whole life for like 2 hours while his legs don't work and he's cramping up like crazy.
While his bike doesn't run,
and he's like, "I'll never do this again."
Yeah, when he feels that cramp in the gluteus minimus.
While they're almost out of tacos.
Right? Yeah. And he's going to be worried that the tacos are all sold out by the time he even gets in there. The sun's going down. He'll have Los Ancianos, grumpy old man Dave, probably coming, or Frank, or whoever's cleaning third loop, be coming up behind him and trying to kick him off of the course, you know. And like that dude's day, though, when he crosses the line, I hope I'm there to watch that guy, because I think that dude's day is better than the guy that won.
Yeah. I remember the first time I finished, it was I got tears in my eyes. I was like, oh man, my son was, I think, 3 at the time.
Oh, that's cool.
Or 2, no, it was 2 and change. And finishing it up, I've never ridden a dirt bike probably like a year and a half before.
Oh wow.
So it was super cool to finish. My buddies were like laughing. I was like, because the first year I raced, I said I was only going to do 2 loops. The second year, it was at that mark, like 18 months of me riding, and I was like, okay, I need to finish this time. I felt it more like going to the gym. Like, it was more of a task, but it was so fun.
Just
so
rewarding.
Fun just to finish.
An accomplishment.
Yeah, you show up, and I think we went through that Narnia deal that I was talking about. That it was so like mythical. Going in, you didn't know what was going on. I think it's just badass at whatever level you're doing it. I've gotten the chance to ride with my dad lately. Taking him to like the Anita's ride and all that. And,
shout out to that.
Yeah, talk about another world class event.
They just started invites and stuff out today, and it kind of withheld this about an hour while we were all trying to get our names in there. So
it's I'm not sure what time it is right now. It's probably 8. It's almost
probably
9.
Sold out.
If I haven't sent any messages out, sorry guys. We'll figure it out next year. but yeah, I think. Just like you said, those experiences, and I'm shooting, and again, we've talked about this, where we've tried to. I want to make sure that this still is alive when my son gets to go on adventures. Yeah. So I see your posts that when you were in college, going up and going out riding in Chico. Like, I want my son to be able to do that and come down to Mexico with his buddies, and let's go to Rosario, let's go to Caravina, let's go to Tecate for the day. You know, all that to be alive at some extent. I know it's not going to be what you got 20 years ago, what I got 15 years ago, what you're getting right now. It's always going to change and it's evolving, but I know it sucks, and we're going to probably get at one point these beat up trails like we have in the States. But if we do it and we start talking again, we've talked about a bunch today, but I think it's just important to kind of keep it alive and try to respect what we're talking and what they posted, Towns posted.
The trail preservation thing's a big thing. Los Ancianos posted something about it. We can't just show up and ride these trails 2, 3, 5 weeks from now because you couldn't get into the Enduro. Oftentimes they've negotiated with the landowners to use this trail, and the trail use is often used one day only. You know what I mean? Like, they're like, oh yeah, come through here one time, and that's that. But they don't need random guys coming through here, and God forbid some weirdo tour company from Arizona coming through and blowing it out. You know, just because they found the tracks online.
Yeah.
Like that's not what you want. Like that's that. There's better ways to do it, and we got to make sure we protect what we have, because we do lose some percentage of trails a year. I would say it's probably in the 10% range, of what existed. Every year you lose. And like, to the guys that don't know the stuff, 10% doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
But like, to the older guys that have been around and trimmed those bushes for 20 years, and they lose a trail that had been there forever, like, it's heartbreaking. You show up to use it one day and you're like, oh,
they work 10 days on that single trail to be gone in some land dispute like we were talking about. I think that's crazy.
Well, also that 10% could be the difference of them starting at Santa Veronica or not.
Yeah, and
that's something to talk about in this trip. I mean, every year I hear club members at Los Ancianos talk about how this may be the last race they start out of Santa Veronica. They've been saying this for 4 or 5 years, so maybe, I don't know if that's real or not, but at some point it's going to happen. It's just too many fences to go through. There's too many landowners to negotiate with, and then move the race further southeast.
And that's the importance of what you were talking about earlier, of respecting. We can only go through during the race, and if maybe we want to do it again, it's important to check out either our Instagrams or Facebook, wherever we're posting something. Maybe you can put the handles there, because Baja Enduro, Juan Reynoso, he does a really good job of putting on those rides, marking them. He puts in a lot of time, and then sometimes he only has 30 guys show up, myself included. We have something with all the 3 kids I have, but I think it's important, if you guys really, really want to ride and keep these things alive. I think Juan, sometimes he'll bring out smaller groups of people too. If you contact him, you contact Jordan. There's ways we can do it where we know where to go, where to show up, how to get there, and basically know what to do, because he's a big ranch, but it's not open to the public. They've got cattle there. It's a working ranch right now. The family that lives there, they make a living off the ranch. So we show up there, we leave a gate open, and we lose half the cattle. I mean, they're not going to want anybody there, no matter how much Ancianos, Baja Enduro, La Ferrara, whatever it is, whoever is paying that ranch, they're not going to want us there.
Yeah.
So it's super important to be respectful. I know it's harder. That's why you don't find a lot of stuff on GPS tracks, and
you shouldn't post it either. I mean, especially with the new apps that they have out,
it's hard. But
the apps people are using for their phones, some of them are automatically sharing tracks and stuff. Just don't put them on the app. That's all there is to it. Like you can't use it. You can't trust it. I mean, I plan to do a whole video series about reasons not to use this app because of how bad it's gotten. I just want to make sure I have all the right details before I do it. It's taken some time, but you guys all nailed it. Like, this is a once in a lifetime deal. We're going to experience 5 to 10 years from now. Our kids are going to experience some portion of that, but it ain't going to be what we saw today. So we got to enjoy what we have today, protect it, and show up and support the guys that make it happen, that are going out there trimming the bushes and shaking hands with the landowners and doing all the work, because those dudes exist every day, whether or not we pay them. And whether or not they do events or anything, they're out there doing it.
And the toy drive. I think the toy drive is super important.
That's a good one.
I think the toy drive, they don't push it. I mean, they do push it, but I don't think, myself included, we don't
think about
it as much, because we're trying to get our bikes ready. But when you go and show support to the kids, and that shows their family, all right, they care about their kids. I remember Jorge Hernandez, whenever he was marking the Langosta run, he would show up with these big baskets of pasta, beans, rice, and non-perishables that they could have there, store there, and they can be used throughout the year. And he would do it, I think it was a few times a year. And it was like, hey, we remember you guys. Maybe we're going to stop by here, have a carne asada someday, and maybe you guys can do it for us. It's those little things that when you hear and we promote these rides, it's nice if you help not only us, but you're helping the local community too, because we try to I know Juan does a really good job of keeping everything kind of local and
Yeah.
getting all the. He did it out of this restaurant this one year,
we
right?
use that
Aborigen, I think.
Aborigen.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, they use that restaurant, and like that's a cool thing to just be able to give to the community that's there. And like I said, at some point somebody's paying some ranchers and they're paying these people to make food. And when we do the Rapador trail ride, like I try to hire everybody I can in the community to do it, because it's their community. We're just lucky enough to be able to use it. And
it's the avenue at that point. It's just the resources that we.
Yeah. Well, like I just agree with that. Look how successful the Anita's ride has been in the past few years. They've only been doing it. I think this is the 5th or 6th year.
I think ninth.
Ninth.
Yeah, next year is it's the big one.
And I mean, they've built so much stuff for the town of El Rosario. I think they've built like houses, give back a ton.
Yeah, they did. I think they were going to do something in a baseball field. I think that didn't end up going through, and they invested in another public space. But it's just that week, everything that gets spent throughout, the hotels are super sold out.
Oh, the whole town's packed.
I think our rooms where all our guys, I'd be embarrassed to take my wife because it's like 7 guys in one bed. But it then in the afternoon where we finish the ride, I think they're going to continue doing it there. That's full of locals. So whatever they're doing, the Hale family does a really good job of including the entire community.
They're doing it right
to really. I mean, they're part of. They basically built that community with everybody that's there.
That's pretty neat. I think that's how this. Like, I try to sell. I have a bunch of friends from the Midwest and up north and stuff, and they're scared to go to Mexico.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, if you don't go ride a dirt bike in Mexico, it's like a Muslim person not going to Mecca.
Yeah.
Like it's not the same thing. Like you can go to every other race in the United States or in the world, and it's not the same thing as when you go to an Anita's ride or you do a hammer down or a Tecate Enduro or one of these things. There's several options you can do, and like the reality is there's no other place on earth where you can ride your dirt bike right out of a dirt bike race and then ride down the street to the local liquor store, get a taco, and throw a 12-pack in your lap and ride back out of there.
With like, people cheering you on the whole side of the highway.
And meanwhile, they got, Justin Morgan's poster on the wall with a signature. It's, I mean, like the community we live in is amazing. And that's why we're here to try to promote it. And like, we want to see this thing grow and be better. And there's no reason why it shouldn't be, because it's the best. We have the best trails, the best community, the entire people, even the not dirt bike people, are into it. Like, it's just what it is.
It's super cool. And I remember my grandma, she was one of the biggest, and it's just, that was an example, but I've been to a bunch of little ranches like that when we would show up to my grandma's house, she was the first one. I was like, oh, how many are you? Oh, it's 7 of us. She'd start making tortillas right then and there, bust out whatever beans and rice or meat that she had left over, come up with burritos, and we're like, oh, we can't have breakfast this time. I was like, oh, you guys sure? All right, let me make the burritos, and we'd take them with us, have them in the middle of the trail. Yeah. And this happens throughout the entire peninsula. Like, for the trails that are open, if you can, like, Compadre does that. You've got down by San Matias that does this. Like, all those areas, like, everybody, the people that already go to Baja probably know Valley T, San Matias, all these little spots. Like, it's super important to kind of go and spend your money there as much as you can so they can continue to be there. There's a lot of these places that have a Starlink now. You can connect into their Wi-Fi and link up and let people know where you're at if you're riding with no GPS. But
download some trails.
Yeah, for sure.
If you're a tour company, they love your guy at.
You might be able to pimp them out.
Yeah. You get a little relief for the second half of the day.
Yeah. But I think we also want to talk about what we were thinking of this year. Yeah. Who was going to take the big race.
Yeah, we're about to hurt a bunch of people's feelings right now. Bunch of no-name dudes talking about who's going to win a race.
I'm usually I'm usually out in the middle of nowhere when everybody finishes up, and I'll know. So when they post the results a few days later. But yeah, what do you guys think? Who wants to kick it off?
I because he's a buddy of mine, and like I'm stoked to see him come down. I got my name on Gary. I want to see Gary Sutherland go out there and beat everybody up. that dude is the wildest person I ever watched ride a dirt bike. Like when you ride behind him for the few seconds that I can hang, I mean, he hits every tree, bush, and rock in the planet, and shit's going flying everywhere, and it just looks aggressive as hell, and that makes it way more fun to watch. So
it's like a trophy truck.
right, it really is. He is a wild man to watch ride a dirt bike, and I get really excited about it. So I'm stoked to see him show up. I like him. I'm also a Justin Morgan fan. Justin Morgan, I've said, I think he might be the most reliable dirt bike rider in history. Like that dude gets it to the finish line. So like every time he's going to be there. So all the other guys that send it big, you got to send it and stay upright because the other dude's coming behind you. He's going to be right there.
Yeah. As much as I would like the glory, I can't imagine how fast they have to be going. All the pressure that they're feeling. That if you think about who the hell is behind you, you're done. It's forward and keep pushing, and it's insane how fast these guys are going through those sharp turns that we've all seen.
100%.
Crazy.
100%. I remember talking with Anson after he won 2 years ago, and like we all think like we're going so fast, dodging Manzanita and ripping, and then you pull in an Anson and Anthony, just every single knuckle dripping in blood, and I was like, holy shit, like what are you guys doing? And they're like, we're just going fast. And like when there's a trail that goes like this with Manzanita, we're going like this, and they're going straight, and they don't give a crap what's in the middle of it, and it's like they rely on that just forward momentum to keep them straight.
I've seen
it's just a different type of riding that I can't understand.
100%. I've gotten the chance to ride with Brandon Prieto and Sammy Montalban, and we've started at the same place. They end whenever they end. I see them in the distance, but it's insane that we're all talking. We say, all right, let's go. I'm putting on my goggles, and they're already far. We're going in the same direction. We didn't take the same line. I went that way, like you said, and they just jumped over and they landed on the bottom.
Totally.
And they just went for it.
Like the more time they're in the air, the less rocks they're hitting.
Yeah, it's like 3 hops, and it takes me 7 minutes.
Like for me, I'm like, oh, Anson, like there's a lot of like downhill sections in that loop, huh? And he's like, what downhills? Like I was just in the arrow for them. Like I just landed on flat all of them.
Yeah, it's insane. It's definitely insane.
Different type of level.
And I think so. Gary, what do you think?
So, I mean, I think Max is the guy to beat this year. He proved he came in last year. Is it fair to say he smoked everyone? Or no?
What did we say?
Like 9 minutes, 9 minutes or something?
Like
off of,
7 and change or 8 and change?
Off
he was moving.
Preston, which I totally forgot about Preston, to be honest. I'm sorry, Preston. I don't know you. You don't know me. But he was the closest one. And then we had Giacomo behind, and then we had
some good competition.
Yeah, it was tight.
You said Brandon got 4th, right? Or I thought Clay did.
No, I think Brandon got 4th.
I'm curious this year. Arturo is starting on the front line.
Yeah, and this is a year. Oh, Ryan true. Wells. Arturo's on the front line.
He's on the first
line. He didn't race last year.
And it's Dusty.
And
so Arturo, Dusty, and Albaro I think Albaro's on the first line too.
You've got them too. And then who was? I think
our boy Noah's on the front line.
Noah's on there too.
He's gonna get down.
So who's on a 2-stroke? Noah's on a 2-stroke this year, and I think Arturo's on a 2-stroke.
And I think Alvaro too.
Yeah, I've seen them all out. I think I seen them all at McCain the other day riding 2-stroke bikes.
Yeah,
getting all ready to rip.
Yeah, I was trying to think who'd have an advantage on the start with a 2-stroke, but I think they're all going to be level now.
I mean, Alvaro, Arturo's racing a 250 XC.
That's a sick bike.
So that's pretty quick
good.
Bike.
Might rev up faster.
Yeah, for starting about maybe a whole shot or something.
I think
that might be a good.
I think Arturo would be a hard guy not to get the whole shot. I mean, just how aggressive he is and how fast he is, like he's gonna get that whole shot.
Yeah,
and he's got every reason to win this time. I mean, riding in the dust. We haven't talked about the weather this year. It's gonna be dusty.
Yeah,
and like Tecate dust is a different kind of dust. It's like one bike hits it and it's a whiteout for 5 minutes.
Second
sometimes,
loop, third loop when it's all dried up. First loop, I think we've all ridden down there when it's wet. It's super damp. But by the 10th, 20th bike, it's all done.
Yeah.
When all vets show up, we're riding nothing but dust.
I remember 2 years ago, it was pretty dusty. Did it rain at Juan's ride 2 weeks ago or no?
Yeah.
No, that was the craziest thing ever. I was driving to the ride on Friday night.
And it was raining.
And it was dumping in Hummel. And I'm like, I was so excited. I was driving out there having a killer time, you know. And then I crossed the border and I'm like looking on the side of the road and I don't see any water. And I'm like driving slow through town. It's like 9 p.m.
Oh,
and I'm looking. I'm like, no water. I get there and I get out. And the first thing I do is kick the ground. And they said it had rained in the morning, but it wasn't enough.
No,
but like we were making jokes about how the rain didn't speak Spanish. It just stopped at the Mexican border.
And it turned back.
Well, I guess I'm wrong. I remember 2 years ago, it rained like a couple weeks before decently well. And so the first like 10 rows was super, super dusty. But by the time I came by, like the mid-pack open guys, it was like black stripe and it was dug down enough to wet dirt where it wasn't like, sure, it was dusty, but it wasn't that bad.
So not
like 3 years ago, dusty.
3 years ago, dusty was gnarly. I think what we might see
Yeah.
that this weekend.
Yeah, because there's a lot it's that heavy sand
Yeah.
in the heat, but then it's all that silt too. That in between all those
In the Manzanita.
Once we start digging through it, we're gonna get rid of all the dirt, and it's nothing but dust.
Mm-hmm.
And shout out to the Choya. They're gonna win this weekend. Like Choya wins every time, and there's a bunch of it in Navy.
Not if you got SXS handguards.
Oh, that's what it is.
Yeah, I see you got the SXS handguards.
I got the medium-sized ones. I was thinking about hanging some rubber flaps on the bottom.
Dude, duct tape works good.
Duct tape works. I did some duct taped beer boxes one year. It was
smart.
It was sick.
Did you leave the Tecate logo out?
Oh yeah, I did. I mean,
that was the whole point.
Yeah. So, you got Gary. What about second, third?
Oh man, now we're getting heavy. I want to see Justin on the podium. I think Brandon Prieto's going to kill it lately. I think he's fit and he's riding good. Like I said, Max is definitely going to be in there.
That's the hardest part. You got all these guys. Like you see, like when Anson came to did an awesome job last year. Max won, but then you get like 5 guys, and you're like, all right. But this year it's not like that. You got 10 guys that you don't know who to pick
that have a chance.
And you got these younger guys that you wouldn't think of compared to like Max and Gary and
just Arturo on the front row.
Yeah, Arturo on the front row is a big deal. Like he's got every there's no excuse.
Who's on the second?
That's a lot of pressure. So second row, we have my boy Anthony Ferrante, who got second 2 years ago.
Who else is Sammy on that one? I think he is.
So line 2 is Anthony, Sammy, Preston Campbell, and Austin Eddy.
Okay, so that line is another one that's pretty crazy. Yeah. You've got, I've never seen somebody race so aggressive as Sammy.
Yeah.
I know he doesn't do a lot of. I
like watching him ride
Woody, but he's another crazy one, like you said. when you were explaining how Gary rides, I mean, he's my little brother. I've seen him ride since he's a kid. Anything that he does, he told me we're gonna go on this light run not too long ago. I was like, all right, I can run a little bit these days. And it was not a light run. It was his recovery was my race for the century. But it's insane. Yeah. You've got I think he has a really good chance of scaring these guys.
Cool.
Of doing something pretty crazy.
He absolutely rips. You're right. He rides really explosively, and I'm a fan of that kind of riding. Like, I think it's good for the people to watch.
Yeah.
It looks cool, for me, a guy that's always in the back somewheres, like, I want to look cool, so I want to look explosive like that.
Yeah. But it's 100 miles.
That's what I was going to say.
I love you. It's 100 miles.
I feel like riding explosively in a race like Tecate is not a good thing. I mean, you need to be, especially with the dust this year, you need to be so smart mentally, knowing when to push and when not to push. Like, I was talking to Anson a few months ago, and I was like, so you're just, like, pushing the whole time. You're sprinting the whole time, right? And he's like, no, dude, it's 30 miles. There's no way you could sprint the whole 30 miles. And also, it's so tight, you can only go as fast as you can see, which is, like, 5 to 10 feet a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So you have to be smart of knowing when to push, when to conserve energy, and just smart with the terrain and the dust and everything.
Yeah.
So
and that's one of the things that I've seen Brandon do really, really well. It's
Justin too.
Those two guys. I don't know
Smarter
how much Justin trains, but I've seen Brandon.
Yeah.
That guy road bikes almost every day. Goes to the gym. I think he hasn't trained in the longest time. He's always doing something with his fitness, and then he rides like 2-3 times a week, if not more. And we always try to ride with him. He says he's going to show up. We always think he's lying to us about what time he's riding because we finish and then he shows up, or we say 9, he shows up at 7. I was like, oh, I thought I got it messed up. But he's always doing his little laps. You don't think he's going that fast, but it's always the same exact pace. It's consistent, and that's what helps. And if you see his last races, he's either got on a podium or he's got in a third, fourth place, fifth place. So I think it's really important to not count him out.
Oh, also line 1, we can't let down my boy James Flynn's on that road.
That's always just bad. I don't know James Flynn much.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with him.
Up and coming, well, not up and coming. He's been in the game for a few good years now. Hard enduro guy from Arizona. I think he's my age, around 25. Grinds his butt off. I mean, he's a easily top 5, top 6 hard enduro kid.
Oh, really?
Yep. And
their fitness level is
his fitness level is like one of the best in the game. I mean, he's one of the best riders in hard enduro I know. And he comes from racing hare scrambles in Arizona, so he's done this race before. I was talking to his dad, Jim. He said he did it in like 2017, 18 or something like that, 2019 maybe. Mm-hmm. He's on the front row, and he's on a 2-stroke. Well, I guess everyone else is on a 2-stroke too, but that's another good guy that is a very smart racer.
Yeah,
is very fit, and sure, he's definitely not focusing on sprint enduros and going fast these days.
I mean, it's that combo, like you said, that Arizona hare scramble is that.
Yep, he's got this. So his speed might not be there, but his fitness is there, and his mental game is 100% there. So that could be a good balance of opposites. You know, someone with Arturo who has the speed and has the local knowledge, and has the experience, but James might kind of maybe be able to outsmart him in the endurance race environment.
Yeah, those two kids. I mean, Arturo and Alvaro. Alvaro's gonna. I definitely know he's gonna scare us. He was top 9, and he was coming from in the open class
last year.
He had to pass.
He sandbagged a little bit last year.
Well, they didn't let him. They didn't let him go up.
I just say sandbag because I would have got 8th if he didn't ride that.
And I would have gotten 10th.
Yeah, it's
in open class.
Yeah, in open class.
Did you race open class last year?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And you're racing open class this year too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. My goal with last year was to get top 10 and beat Jordan. But I didn't do either of those.
He's got me
so crazy too.
Every year I get to show up, I'm just stoked to be there, and I'm like happy as fuck that these dudes are trying to beat me still.
Yeah,
because I'm like,
one more year,
you know. Like,
and now you're gonna be
you
racing.
Just have to wait till next year.
You're gonna have the 1X.
Next year it'll be all 1X.
That's why I'm showing up to the ZR race.
Next year's ZR race is gonna be the shit. Nat's making me gold #1 backgrounds. Like I'm going all out. Is there anybody else on that list we haven't talked about?
That was it.
I think we've got a few other. We got
has Clay Hengeveld. He's on there.
Clay's not racing this year, unfortunately. He'd be a top guy.
Ivan's racing.
Ivan's racing. He took a year off last year.
Yeah.
Got 3rd the year before that.
Ivan's legit. He'll be there.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna go with 3rd. Anthony Ferrante.
Yeah.
Consistent guy. Just got back from 6 days. He's got the speed. He definitely has the sprint speed. He has the endurance. I mean, those dudes were racing.
And he's still young too.
Still super young.
How old is he?
Anthony's 21.
So he's about, I think Arturo's like 22.
Mm-hmm.
So he's in that like same mentality. It's
Spicy
like, oh,
mode.
bro.
Spicy mode.
They're all spicy.
So I think it's gonna be the battle of the older guys. So we got like Gary. Gary's probably the older.
And that's
older
funny
one in
because
there,
you
isn't he?
Justin got to be pretty close, I think.
Because I think Justin's my. I mean, I'm getting
Justin,
up there.
I think
37. I think he's
he's
37.
in that range, 36, 37.
Then you got Max, who's a couple years younger than that, but
Yeah.
who's arguably at his prime still right now. I mean,
Max is killing it.
dude,
Especially in this type of terrain. I mean, Larry, still a few years ago in the 50 or 60 class, he was still passing all the 40s and 30s, a bunch of 30s too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's easy to stay good speed when it's not so violent on your body. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, line 3 is Brandon, Gary, Ryan Smith, and Juan Reynoso.
Ryan Smith's a guy we haven't talked about at all. I don't know him personally. He's
I don't know him
an
either.
Arizona guy, maybe.
It says California, or it says Pinion Hills,
No?
California.
Okay, I might be wrong.
I'm not sure.
I think
That Central
I feel like
Coast,
I've been on a start line
Oh, wow.
with him several times in the past, so I feel
Yeah.
bad. I don't know more about him, but like I say, he might be in there too.
I'm stoked Juan's doing pro. I mean,
Yeah.
It was that, or I mean, he could have stayed in 30 class, but he's 40.
Well, I'll talk about a guy though who's like, what did he get? Like overall last year, he was like
16th, I think.
16th from starting from the vet row, right?
Yeah, I think that people don't get enough credit for like him and Zach. They rode from the 30 lines to finish inside the top 20 with traffic, and the traffic is something that, you know, I've talked to several of the top guys, and they don't see the traffic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like when you're having to come through traffic, I think it really hurts your overall time. Guys like Juan and Noah Fouch and all these dudes, they're not going to have an excuse this year because they're starting in the front and they're not going to have that kind of traffic.
Yeah.
So it's cool. I'm stoked to see Juan like prove himself what he can finish like legitimately overall.
That's it. He's just got to stay moving. I think, I talked to him a little bit, as receptive as he could be, listen to me, and I just told him, I was like, just keep moving at your speed and keep going forward. And I think you're going to end up where you want to be at. I got to believe if he finished 16th last year, a 10th isn't unbelievable.
I don't think so.
Like with if you take the traffic out of it, because the traffic's insane, especially in the 30 line. Like I've started back there before. I mean, last year was a great example. I think I was 28th. The best I'd ever finished was 34th or something. Yeah. Started from the vet lines.
So how was third row from back there, or third lap? Like, was there some bottlenecks and stuff?
No, not for me. I mean, I'm going a little bit slower, granted, but I only got passed by like 4 or 5
But you would have known if there were some bad bottlenecks.
Well, open class, but because I started mid pack 30, and a lot of people in the by the third they were dropping out.
Oh,
and open class. That's the thing about open class. It's nice that we have the sportsman class now, but you still get a bunch of 30 class guys going into the open class because they don't want to deal with traffic.
Or me,
personally, guys, stay with me. Don't mess up somebody else's race because you don't want to be in dust. They're probably gonna.
I'm a 40 guy. I'm riding an open.
But what place did you get? I know some open guys that should be racing with me, and I'm going to catch you.
Oh yeah.
I don't blame them. Last year I rode it open for the first time, and I was shocked at how good the race course was.
So good.
Like when you ride in the back of the 30 or in the 40 group, everything's beat up, and I think it's a great opportunity to give a shout out to the women and the 60 guys out there.
True.
What you guys do is real animal shit, because like I couldn't ride that thing with all the bumps in it. My back, I'm sorry. I'd be hurt. I'd be old man to death. Like what you guys do out there to just show up and ride 60 miles of that just to get 2 loops in. I don't think you guys get the credit for the 2 loops that you do, because the 2 loops you do is garbage. It's bumps, and then there's a hole where everybody spun the tire before the first rock. And so they're not like every rock is a foot taller than the first guys that went through. So shout out to all y'all back there. I hope there's gals racing this year. I don't know of any off the top of my head, but I want to see you guys do well. I'd love to see one of you girls finish high enough to do 3 loops. That'd be awesome. And the same with the 60 guys. I know guys like Grant Polanski and my man Jimmy B. you guys could just keep going and do 3,
Who was it last year? Reed?
Reed's an animal too.
Reed, he raced, I think, Sportsman or 60.
I'm not
or
even
50,
sure.
But he wasn't supposed to do another lap.
And
And
he
he was
did
like,
it
hey,
anyways.
I'm going to go do it. And then he started taking pictures of the guys he was passing.
Reed's the
was
best
like,
one-handed dirt bike rider on planet Earth.
Yeah,
Like, I've never seen another guy ride with one hand so good.
That was funny. He was the max of the Anciano.
That's hilarious.
On the third loop. That was the best footage right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wish it. I think the Los Ancianos should have a legends class where it's a old guy class that gets to ride in the front of the group so they can avoid all the bumps.
Like legend, where they like and you get in that class because you accomplish something,
or just like a guy like Reed. Reed's been there. He's done 3 loops several times, and he's having to ride in the back. Larry
in there,
you got, there's
Grant.
several dudes. Kelly Gelhaus is a rip. That guy hauls ass, and like all these dudes, they're having to ride from the back all the time, and I don't think they get the opportunity level for overall position isn't what it is if you start in the front.
You've raced against Ever.
Ever's my guy.
So and you guys starting off in the 40 class, like it's not fun. It sucks that fast guys like that have to race all the way in the back.
And if you're a nice guy, you're like, I always try to pass. This is a great opportunity to roll into a different topic here, but like when you go to pass guys this year, we made a bunch of jokes about having burnout signs made and sticking them at the start line that said "Get the fuck out of the way." like we talked about doing that because like the club will put out like very PC verbiage like you guys got to move out of the way.
If someone catches you from the row behind you,
if somebody catches, you got to do the math, guys. If you're on minute 40 and a guy from minute 42 comes up behind you, I've seen you guys 100 times. I raced the 30 and 40 classes for 10 years. You guys will look over your shoulder, you'll see the number, and then you'll pin it in front of me. And I'm going like, dude, what? I just put 2 minutes on you in the first 10 minutes of the test. Like, get out of the way.
You know what? It's not even if you see them, because sometimes when you're racing, like you're not looking for a number, you forget. If you know you're the last of your 4 guys, you're the 4th dude in your row. The 3 other dudes are in front of you, and someone catches you, that dude has a minute on you already.
Even if they're on the same line and they're going faster and you just happen to get the whole shot because they misgeared whatever and they caught up to you, might as well let them go by because they already caught up to you.
They're going to get around.
It's nasty. You're doing something better.
You're only going to go faster by trying to stay on them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
Even the fast dude from your row behind, like pull over, let him lead and follow him. Like you'll go faster.
100%.
And I've been the guy that I've been reprimanded several times after the year. I come from the motocross world. You guys run into me, and I'm just like, all right, cool, we're playing this game. I'll just run into you again,
Yeah.
And so, like, I used to get and run into guys' back tires and knock them over in turns and stuff when they didn't move. And then I get yelled at afterwards. And I'm like, man, I'm just out here trying to have a good time.
I know this is it.
That's hilarious.
I thought this was part of the game.
I'm like, I'm not saying this.
I wish I had that
don't
skill set.
do this. Okay, I don't support this endorsement, but it does work. But the moral story is get out of the way. If somebody catches you from behind, all you got to do is pull over in the bushes. It's going to cost you 1 or 2 seconds.
Somebody's going to crash,
and you don't want to get crashed.
Yeah.
And then like especially this year in the dust, I think the dust is a big problem because the closer you get in speed. I found out I have to start on the start line with Johnny Campbell, right? And like Johnny's like a hero in the off-road world. Like
you gotta almost let him buy it. That
right?
like gotta go over at the start,
and like he's gonna get in front of you at some point. And I'm going like I don't feel like I mean like we're gonna go somewhat at the same speed where you're gonna be in the dust. It's gonna be a problem, Yeah. And when you're riding in the dust, it's dangerous. You can't see where you're going. It's what it is. So we've all been there. We're all going to be there this weekend. If you're in the dust and this dude caught you from a minute behind you, just move over and let him go by so everybody stays upright and everybody can keep their momentum going forward. Like if you look at the test times from each rider the year before, that like last year, it takes you like 2 minutes to gain a spot.
Yeah.
Right. When you're in the top 20, like 2 minutes is a huge gap to make up. So you may think, oh, I'm going to get out of the way when I feel like it's easy to do so. But if you hold a guy up for 5 seconds and then the next guy holds him up for 5 seconds, you're costing him 1 or 2, 3 positions in the overall.
100%.
And like those dudes in the front really work hard to do that. I'm not putting in the work, but those guys are. So like, I just get cranky.
And the other thing, you probably dealt a lot with this, but I remember it was a lot quicker than I've ever been and probably will be. But he caught up to me at one of the loops one year, and it was a shit show. Nobody could get by. It was a bottleneck, and he was two guys behind me. I looked back, and he asked me, I was like, "Buncho, can I go?" I was like, "Yeah, come on over."
Yeah.
I get my bike out of the way. I wasn't competing for anything.
Yeah.
I should have, because I lost some money that day. Brought him over. He was gonna come back. I was like, "No, dude, just go for it.
Yeah.
I'll figure it out." Because it got into a point where it was a flat rock. Skid plates were hitting. There was nothing to launch your bike off of. Yeah. It was done. So, guys, if we're racing in a class and we're already behind, something happened, let's help out the guys that are still trying to get there, trying to get a podium. Get out of their way. I've got him passed by Kelly.
Yeah.
I've got him passed by you or wherever. It's nice to. We do have those guys that are racing for a podium in the 40 and the 50. 60s,
and they take that shit seriously. If you're a guy that, I know, a bunch of those dudes in the age group classes, they're putting in a shitload of work, man. Yeah. They're going to the gym. They're going to the gym. They're riding the stationary bikes. This is a big day for them. And like, if you hold them up a little bit, you don't want to be that guy. So just move out the damn way. It's pretty simple.
Help them pull a wheel if you see them struggling or something, because there's going to be Nahi. I don't know if you remember that. There's a bunch of those big granite rocks that you can't even ride on the side. You have to go right through them. Yeah. And if they move the rocks that they put in place, you're done. Yeah. You're going to have a hard time going through that. You have to be pretty skilled. You have to go, full speed, try to launch off of a little boulder, something. But there's going to be bottlenecks. Yeah. And we have to be ready for them, because it's going to be difficult up there.
So I'm not savvy with the guys, but do we know any younger guys in the open class or something that's a new guy that we should talk about today?
I want Declan. Is Declan racing?
Oh, I don't know. I meant to text him. I think I forgot to.
I've got one. I think he'll probably do pretty good. Max G.
Yeah.
Max, I don't know if you guys met him. He's 18, 17, 18, down from Chula Vista, originally from Rosarito.
Okay.
He races, I think, a 16 and a 10.
Oh, I think I know the guy.
Family races. His dad's. I think his dad just got. He got an award at the score. I think the score ceremony. He's going to be racing, and he's been putting in a ton of work. He's been training with Alvaro.
Cool.
I think he's going to do pretty good. He might win the open class.
Oh, shit.
He's pretty
quick. Look out.
Yeah. So, dude, he's one. He might be a good competition for him. 30 class. My boy Kiko.
Yeah.
I think Kiko might take it. He's been Juan's.
Is he gonna ride 30 this year?
He's gonna ride 30.
Oh, nice. Shit.
He's gonna keep it there. He says he has nothing to do in the pro class. I think different.
Yeah.
But he doesn't ride that often anymore, so I think 30 is fine for him. But I think he might take it.
That's a pretty good.
Depending on whoever won last year, that guy came out of nowhere.
Zach Williams. I don't know that dude, but he came out of nowhere. We get a lot of guys that show up from different places that had never been to Tecate before, but they're top tier where they're from.
Yep.
That happens quite a bit, and I wish I could remember all those guys' names right now. I remember there's a dude from Missouri that came out a couple of years ago and absolutely hurt everybody.
Oh wow.
And like this guy Zach, I remember Juan was a little upset that he didn't win last year, but
Zach, who knows who he came a few. It was Alvaro, it was your boy Maloney, and then it was Alvaro, and then it was him. So that he was a quick guy. I don't know if he's coming back again or not, but
I don't at this time I don't think they've put out the rider record anybody other than the top pro guys. They gave us a list of the pro guys so we could talk about it, and that's been fun to do. And then we know the guys that we know that are showing up. Chato Ortiz. Chato did great last year.
Chato.
He's open. He did great last year. I think he's a possibility to win the open class this year.
Yeah, he's going to be racing the open class for sure.
What did Danny get at open last year? I think
Danny was also up there.
Did he beat you or did you beat him? No,
Danny beat me last year.
Danny
Mendoza.
Mendoza.
I
don't know because
I think he's on the start line with me this year. I don't remember who finished in what position last year, but I think him and I are in the same minute, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't see him here. I don't think did he race last year?
Yeah.
I don't see him on the first.
I might have got some inside info on the start minutes there. My bad.
He got 26th overall. He got 8th in open.
There you go.
said
so yeah, he's one spot in front of me. I think we're on the same minute.
Sick.
Look out in first turn.
Dude,
I could go fast for a whole shot.
Danny's pretty aggressive. Danny's
he is.
He's an aggressive racer.
Yep, 100%.
For sure.
Yeah, you guys are gonna have fun going back and forth.
Yeah,
I think you'll be able to do you'll do your wheel trick. Yeah. I think he'll like that.
What's your wheel trick?
Hit
him.
Bumping it down
I'm good at that. You better look out. From racing, I did I probably did 8 or 10 years of racing mammoth motocross.
Yeah.
And like mammoth motocross is this funny thing where people show up. That's their pro national for the year.
Yeah.
And so it is war to the 30th position. They will clean a guy's front wheel out to get 29th place versus 30. And so like you go there and you race an A class or something. And I remember I used to, at the end of the weekend, I would go home. I wish I had some photos, but I would have black marks all over my back from handlebars hitting me in the back. Because I could always start pretty good. And then the kids would catch me and beat me up in the back and just run into the back of me. They're riding around. And,
so funny.
But yeah, that's from riding in those races for all the years, I got really comfortable bumping into people, and it's not advised. But
I don't know, man. It sounds pretty cool.
I'm not saying it's a good trait, but I'm glad I got it.
We got anything else on here?
I think that's pretty much it. I think we beat it up.
Right on.
I hope you guys all come out and enjoy the race, and in any way you think you can help out the club, pick up your trash,
bringing toys,
and bringing the toys to the toy drive is a big thing.
Yep.
Let's try to do that.
I know Ancianos didn't ask, but the perishables, I think that's always something nice.
Canned food drive,
food drive, something to give the families with the toys. Maybe help them out with their Christmas dinner or something like that.
Yeah,
that'll be a little extra. Probably won't like it, but we'll figure out something what to do with all that.
Yeah. But yeah, let's just try to bring in and do as much as we can to take care of the place and provide the best possible racing scenario for both the racers and the public and all the people that give us their land to use for the weekend. And I can't wait to see you guys all out there. Come by and drink a beer Saturday night and drown your sorrows, and let's talk about the racing. We'll maybe have to do a recap at the campfire on Saturday night. What do you guys
that'd be pretty fun.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
All right.
Yeah.
Right on.
Guys, if anybody needs anything, look for any of us during the pits and the remote pits. We're going to have our canopies out there.
Yeah.
So please come out. Anything you need, tools. We'll probably have electrolytes, some food out there. So super important to be eating during this time. And if
you guys have cramping issues, call me up. I got solutions. I got a ride union tent and a heavy moto tent. I think he's gonna have a La Parada tent, and we'll all be out there. So anyway, we can take care of you guys and make it better experience. I hope to see you all out there. And you guys good?
Yeah.
Good.
High five.
Sweet.
That was fun.
Cool.
Hell yeah.